Game engines are crucial for the development of today's games. As games reach higher and higher production values to serve a growing demand for quality from the average consumer, game engines must also grow more advanced, providing more appealing graphics, more realistic physics, and greater efficiency than ever before. However, the side seen by the end user playing the game is not the only thing that has changed. The tools used to create these games have become more user-friendly and have been placed into the consumer's hands. As this has happened, there has occurred a veritable explosion of user-created maps and game modifications. We decided to look at the usability of these various game mod tools utilizing Don Norman's principles of design as a yardstick. We also chose to look at video games produced using these game modification tools to determine how much one could do with the said tools. Finally, we examined alternative uses of game modification as well as discussing how these tools might appear in the future. We started with the Far Cry 2 map editor. Packaged with all copies of the game Far Cry 2 and released on home consoles, it was probably going to be the easiest to use. The editor scores early points in visibility. Every function possible is seen on the top toolbar. Furthermore, the icons afford the user with the knowledge of what the given brush will do. While they may occasionally be vague, it is fairly simple to pick up and start constructing a map. In terms of consistency, the editor uses the same basic elements across all its tools. Nearly every tool uses a brush with a sidebar of sliders to adjust the effects of said brush. It is powerful. However, its consistency is something of a problem as well. It is impossible to change core aspects of the game. Instead, every Far Cry 2 map will look like every other Far Cry 2 map, with similar landscape, architecture, vehicles, and so on. The constraints put in place by the program allow easy use, but also do not permit full creative freedom. Ease of use is not necessarily a bad thing. The engine uses procedural generation to create trees and landscapes that look realistic and are very detailed, and the full 3D GUI provides great feedback about what one is doing in the map. The Far Cry 2 map editor is about as plug-and-play as you can get. All physics and vehicles and everything else are easily available without any extra coding. You don't have to code in the skybox or the storms or anything. It's all there, ready to go. Again, however, this does not allow any modification whatsoever. The source engine is rather different. It is not easy to pick up and play around with. Even the simplest tasks require a great deal of effort, making ground or room. Visibility in the source engine is terrible. The few buttons that are immediately presented serve only the most basic of purposes, and everything else is buried in a myriad of menus. Furthermore, the hammer editor allows little feedback. Despite having a 3D viewport as well as 2D viewports for all three axes, it offers no real-time lighting updates or other indications of how the game will look when actually run. Consistency is shot. It is difficult to tell where to go to do similar tasks with different tools. All in all, a map created by a naive user will not be impressive in the slightest, as the hammer editor does not do anything for the user. This is a map that I made a few years ago for a school project. It is nowhere near as detailed or attractive as the Far Cry 2 map. However, I was able to import textures and create unique buildings, unlike what one could do in the Far Cry 2 map editor. This is the key advantage of the source editor over the Far Cry 2 map editor. Although it's not as easy to use, there are few constraints, which allows many more mods. Users can not only create maps, but full total conversion mods wherein they essentially make a new game running on the current engine. Eventually we came to the UDK, or Unreal Development Kit. The Unreal Engine is used in a large variety of professionally made games and has a huge modding and mapping community. There is even a contest called Make Something Unreal, which is put on by the creator of the engine, Epic Games. Visibility is decent. Although one must search around for some things, the most crucial elements needed are plainly obvious. Furthermore, unlike the hammer editor, there is a 3D viewport that updates lighting constantly, giving good feedback. Like the source editor, there are a few constraints. While it is fairly easy to create realistic-looking terrain just as it is with the Far Cry 2 map editor, one can still fiddle with the lighting and create custom shapes, import textures, and in other ways differentiate the mod from the base game. The controls could be a little more consistent, and the interface overall could be more afforting to outside influences and mapped out better, but all in all, the UDK is the most user-friendly game editing tool of them all. It is shown in part by the Unreal Engine's ubiquity in gaming. This trade-off is the Unreal Engine's most important feature. While it may not be as easy to get into as the Far Cry 2 map editor, it is pretty close. It is our guess that game modification tools will be moving in the same direction in the coming years. It is also possible that a scalable sort of mapping tool will exist, where new users can create maps in the game with the ease of the Far Cry 2 map editor, but can then move into more advanced tools when ready. It is also probable that game developers will request these tools as well. Ease of role creation is to everyone's benefit. It is even possible to use these kinds of tools for gameplay. Games with emergent gameplay like SimCity, Garry's Mod, and most recently Minecraft all feature building components. It is clearly attractive to players to be able to build their own world. As games begin to enable this either as essential elements of gameplay or as behind-the-scenes level creators, it will grow easier for any player to create their own world, which is naturally appealing. It is the virtual evolution of LEGO. Thank you for watching our analysis, HCI and otherwise, of game modification.